largest rice importer in the world at 2.4 million metric tons. This fell to just 860,000 metric tons the following year. This year, the Agriculture Department says it will cut imports further to just 500,000 metric tons, a target that the administration says can be achieved. For 2013, the target, zero rice importation. In order to do that, the Philippines will have to boost palay production by more than 1.5 million metric tons from this year's target of 18.46 million metric tons. This is a tall order, given our palay production history. Production hasn't grown by more than 1 million in the recent years, and in fact, even fell sometimes. But it's not impossible. After all, we've done it before. The Philippines exported rice in the late 70s under the late President Ferdinand Marcos's project, more famously known as Masagana 99.
With us tonight, Henry Lim, Chairman of SL Agritech Corporation, a hybrid rice producer. Mr. Lim, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure, Coco.
Now, you didn't start out in the rice business. You actually have a company called Sterling Paper, which most people will know.
Yes.
Know more than your rice. How did you get interested in rice?
So I get interested in rice way back in 1997. Of course, at that time, I do not know how much 1 kilo of rice selling in the palengke. I do not know what's a dinurado, what's a sinandoming.
That's your wife's problem.
For my wife to handle. But of course, lately everybody called me Rice, Mr. Rice. But you know, I've been involved in rice since early 1998. But because I have some friends in the government, and at that time they were saying that, look at China, how they can produce so much rice in spite of a big population and a small arable land area. So I make my own research, and I was 5. And I found the right formula for it. And you know, as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest risks of an entrepreneur is to take risks. I make a calculated risk, and I invested myself in agriculture. And right now, we are one of the biggest hybrid rice producers in the Philippines.
How did you create your hybrid rice? I mean, we all know that there is an Erie up in Los Baños.
Yes.
And they have all the scientists there from around the world trying to create better varieties of rice. How are you able to come up with your own?
Actually, you know, one of the biggest mandate of Erie is to protect all the varieties of rice in the world because this is a treasure of mankind. But then, of course, Erie also has a lot of this research and development. But for hybrid rice, you know, I was very, I think it's providential. I met Professor Yuan Longping of China way back in early 1998 through a common friend. And at that time, he was telling me about hybrid rice. I know nothing about hybrid rice at that time. And the reason for China become self-sufficient is because hybrid rice can yield 2 times, 3 times more. And at that time, because we developed a special bond with Professor Longping, and he would like to help me. So being an entrepreneur, I grabbed the opportunities. But when I came back to Erie, I went to Erie. To the Philippines, I went to Erie, and I asked Erie about hybrid rice. And at that time, Dr. Bermani was the number 3 man of Erie doing this hybrid rice technology and all of these things. And I asked him, and he was telling me that, Mr. Lim, China has the best technology on hybrid rice. But of course, unfortunately, at that time, hybrid rice can only be prosper in the temperate regions, a certain degree above the equator. And unfortunately, the Philippines belongs to a tropical setting. So it's very difficult to come with a tropical hybrid rice variety. So, you know, overcoming so many hardships, in 2001, we finally came out with a variety called SL8H. Of course, SL is the initial of my father. 8 is because that plot number 8 has been very special to us because we were able to find the stabilization of the hybrid rice variety. And of course, H means hybrid, not Henry. So for the last 10 years, 11 years, SL8 has has remained as the best hybrid rice system, not only in this part of the country in the Philippines, but even in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, and other countries.
Now you were telling me that you got a leg up because soon after you developed that first variety, or that variety of rice, the Agriculture Department sponsored it in effect and helped propagate it around.
Yes, I was very fortunate to meet Cito Lorenzo. Actually, it was a very providential. I met him in a plane. Actually, we were seated side by side to each other, so we were talking about. At that time, he was appointed, I think, as the presidential advisor for job generation. he should at least generate 1 million jobs for the president during that time. And I said, job generation, snap of the finger. He said, why? No, around 4 million hectares of rice land. If our national average is only 3 tons per hectare at that time, why don't we concentrate on 1 million hectares of fully irrigated rice land? And I'm determined to increase it from 3 tons to 10 tons per hectare. And if we just need one additional farmers to tend to the farm, harvesting, hauling, transplanting, we have 1 million jobs already.
Okay, so how important is it, how different is it when you plant hybrid rice compared with the other kinds of seedlings or seeds that we plant in terms of production?
No, actually, the terms of production, it's going to be double, sometimes even triple. And the planting is just the same as planting ordinary inbred, except for hybrid, because of the Vigor, you need only around 15 to 18 kilos of seeds for 1 hectare. But for ordinary inbred, certified seeds, you need around 80 kilos or sometimes even 120 kilos. That's why the farmers, when they say, is 18 kilos enough for 1 hectare, they are very reluctant to shift from the traditional varieties to hybrid. So you have to teach them that you have to make a seed bed, and you only use 1 seedling per hill, and 1 seedling can tailor to around 25 seedlings and all of these things. So these are the things that we are doing.
But the criticism, even you were saying, of about hybrid rice is that you have to buy the seed or seedling every year.
Yes, I was being attacked once or many times that the farmers has to rely on my seeds every time. But that's the peculiar characteristic of hybrid. Being hybrid corn or hybrid fruits or hybrid vegetable is the same thing, because the hybrid Vigor is only up to the 1st generation. After the 1st generation, it will lose its Vigor. But it doesn't mean that you cannot use the 2nd generation seed. You can still use it. But of course, there's no promise that you're going to yield 10 tons, 14 tons.
So that's the big change you have to inculcate, I guess, in farmers, that if they go the hybrid route, they are going to have to buy every season, every planting season, new seed.
But then that's really nothing. If you just yield only 2 tons additional, 2 tons at 18 pesos per kilo pala, that's already 36,000 pesos. So what is 4,000 plus compared to 36,000 pesos?
Now, for a government that wants to be self-sufficient or that wants to be a net exporter of rice, I'm guessing you're going to say that hybrid is the way to go. What is the government not doing enough of in order to propagate hybrid rice?
Actually, I think Secretary Alquaz is doing a great job in trying to irrigate more farms, because if you have more irrigated lands, of course, that's another way to increase our production. And I think he has added more, because in the Philippines around 3.5 to 4 million hectares of land. But during the previous administration, maybe around 1.2 million. I think right now they are going to increase it to 1.5 or 1.6 million hectares to be irrigated, and that's good. But of course, if you ask me, you should have a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan. For short-term, you just change the seeds. If you tell us, okay, we need so much seeds, it takes me 1 year, I'll produce the seeds already. But if you want to do a medium term, of course, you have to repair all the irrigation that's been damaged. It will take you around 2 to 3 years. And of course, if you want to put up dams, whatever, like Magat, another Magat, but it will take you around 5 to 6 years. So to have short, medium, and long term, the short term is really hybrid, and I can bet my head on it that if we have 800,000 hectares planted to hybrid per year, we're going to be importing rice.
Now, most of our viewers probably don't know, but they probably see your brands when they go to the groceries. They say under the Doña Maria name, the Jasponica name, etc. Right? We can't do advertising here, but I think we need to mention that so that people know what we're talking about. Now, you develop these seeds for these rice, and you're talking with countries around us to try to work on their production as well.
Yes, SL8 is a normal Dinorado and Super Sinandoming or whatever, Super Angelica you see. But the Doña Maria is another variety of hybrid. It's SL7 and SL9. Jasponica, because it's a Jasmine Japonica combination. Miponica is a Milagrosa or Milagrosa and Japonica. So both of them are very good, in fact. And right now, if we are saying that we are going to export rice, I can tell you that I met somebody it's even in Sabera and Tugigarao. He was saying, Henry, I bought your Doña Maria rice in Toronto. I mean, is it in Toronto? Although we are not exporting directly now, but there are some indirect exporters and some jobbers who buy our seeds, put in a container, they ship it out.
Does President Aquino know this, that we're already a rice exporter?
I don't know about it, but he should know that we have been exporting our seeds even way back.
What are you trying to do with countries like Myanmar in terms of hybrid rice?
The Minister of Agriculture of Myanmar came over. He really looks for me. In fact, he invited me to go to Myanmar. I have a red carpet treatment in Myanmar. And in fact, I said, why don't you just buy our seeds in the meantime and then plant it? He said, we have planted your seeds already. We would like you to do seed production. So he wants me to even do seed production. That's why we have a big seed production there at the moment. And right now, you know, Myanmar is opening up. And he was even inviting the Thais there to buy the rice to export it. So probably, I think, with the low production cost of Myanmar, with the technology of the Philippines, and of course with the marketing of the Thais, I think it's going to be a good combination. And I think we are working on something towards that.
We have to end soon, but you know, we beat our chest a lot because Erie is in the Philippines, but we're the rice importer in the region. Is this what's going to happen now with your hybrid rice? Are they going to develop it more or use it more than we are going to be using it?
You know, Erie also has some good varieties of hybrid rice. Of course, you know.
What I meant to say is, the hybrid rice you're developing, will it become more popular in the other countries than it will be here?
Right now, it's really more popular in other countries. And,
so may iwanan na naman tayo?
You know, SL8 is #1 in Bangladesh. SL8 is also #1 in Indonesia. And probably we'll be exporting another 500 tons of our seeds to Vietnam by November. And the biggest irony is that I'm exporting my seeds to Vietnam, and yet we are importing the rice coming back from Vietnam.
So let's end with one of your projects to try to plant 1,000 hectares here. You have the Metro Pacific Group. You're in talks with the Metro Pacific Group.
Actually, 1,000 is just a very small model. I don't think they're happy with 1,000. They're talking about millions of hectares, but it's one model that. But I think it's still too early for us to divulge on what we are doing. But definitely, the one set of people and my own set of people, they've been going around Mindanao and all of these areas, and maybe give us a few months. Or maybe MVP will be the one to divulge information.
Okay, Mr. Lim, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our discussion on the